Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to import your data file into the JASP stats program to run a dependent samples t-test. So first, let's import our data. So click on File, then tell the program where the file is. So I'm going to make sure Open is highlighted, then Computer. Then I'm going to click on Browse right here. I'm going to tell the computer to look in the desktop. And you'll notice that that my file is saved here because I have it set up that way where it shows the most recent files on top. So I'm going to double click on dependent samples t-test. That's the file name that I saved it as. Now you'll notice pretty instantly that the file comes up and it looks remarkably similar to the data set that we set up in Excel. You have two columns here that I had. You had the baseline phase in one column and the treatment phase scores in a different column. And then in the leftmost column, you have the participants' ID numbers all the way down. So there's just 10 participants with their baseline and then their treatment scores. To run the analysis, really simple, click on t-test, which is up here. Just click on it once, let the pop-down menu appear, and then you'll see that there's a few options here, and you might not know which one to click. Click on Paired Samples t-test. That's a term that's used interchangeably with dependent samples t-test, so that's the one that we're doing. Let's click on that. You'll notice that you'll get this pop-up screen that before any analysis is run, you need to tell the computer, the program, what files or what columns, sorry, that are part of this analysis. Now, this is easy because there's only two columns in this analysis, so we're going to send them both there. So make sure that they're both highlighted. Click on the Go arrow to send them into this box, and that that designates the columns that are included in the analysis. And as soon as we do that, you'll notice the t-test is rendered on the right part of the screen right here. I'll get to those scores in a second, but before we get there, let's make sure we click on some additional statistics. So I like to include effect sizes in my results section. I also like including descriptives, and that is like your means and your standard deviation. So make sure those are selected as well. And as soon as you do, almost instantly, that information is popped up on that same right-hand side of the screen. So let's look at what we have. We have 10 participants that completed both the baseline phase and the treatment phase. And you'll see the means for each of those phases followed by their standard deviation. So in the baseline phase, their mean was 2.7, and then their treatment phase, their mean was 7.3. And you'll notice that, of course, a 7.3 is much larger than the mean in the baseline phase of 2.7. So eyeballing it, we know that there's a pretty big difference, but of course that's not enough. We need to run the statistical test to tell us truly if there's a difference. And that's up here. And you'll notice that there is a t-score of negative 13.53. Now, for those of you who don't know much about t-scores, that is a very large number. And how do we know that? Because we look at the p-value. So I put up another video on how to interpret the t-score value and the p-value here. And the p-value is particularly important because it has to be less than 0.05. In this case, it's really small. It's less than, much less than 0.05. It's 0.001. So in this case, we have a really big difference between these two conditions, the baseline phase and the treatment phase. Very large difference. It's a significant difference. And when we look at the descriptives, the difference is during the treatment phase, they scored higher than during the baseline phase. And here are the means. And that's it. That's essentially how you import data into the stats program, how to run the analysis of a dependent samples t-test, and that's a quick version of how you interpret those scores, and you'll put these numbers into your results section.